Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. I'm Billy, the host. Welcome back to the show. 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 I'm Billy, the host.
Welcome back to the show.
Hey.
I'm Billy, the host. We're joined today by producer Trent Ludzak.
Hello.
We are in Trent's unnamed studio in beautiful Marietta, Georgia. And we're joined by our special guest, the one and only, the pod master himself, Joel Byars. I guess that was kind of an intro right there.
That was exactly it.
That was a great intro. I appreciate that. Welcome back to the show. It's good to be here, man. It is everything that I hoped it would be.
Yeah.
Seeing it online, this is everything I had hoped the studio would be.
I'm glad that we ended up in Trent's house, even though it wasn't planned that way because it's not our normal recording day. But as I was setting up for the listeners, I was like almost set up in Corey's shed for the podcast when Transformer exploded on the street and we lost all power to the whole house.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Trent.
Save the day.
Yeah. Well, and also it's only a 5-minute difference, like less than a mile from here. So, yeah.
It's good to be here in the trap house. This is
We're
great.
Here. You are the host of the Hot Breath podcast, or the whole Hot Breath network, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. What is the whole Hot Breath verse? Is there's a podcast, you do live shows.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have a clean comedy festival coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You also do a class as well as like writing workshops and stuff like that.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, that's basically what it is. It started out as a podcast. It's evolved into a community of comedians that help each other get better.
So it started out as a podcast. Were you already doing stand-up before you decided I want to do a podcast and all this?
Yeah, I'd probably been doing stand-up 5 or 6 years, and I wanted a show that I wish existed. My favorite part of comedy podcasts was when they nerded out about comedy, and this was before there were a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, let me create a show that's just nerding out about comedy. So then over 400 episodes later, it's still going, and during the pandemic, I really went all in on the community and really building that up and creating a lot of cool things there that now we have listeners all over the world and comedians starting their careers or really leveling up their careers, and it's all based in really comedians helping comedians, which when I started was definitely not really there.
Yeah.
It was a little more cutthroat. There's a lot more camaraderie and collaborative spirit in comedy now versus when I started. So I'm happy to hear that.
When I really started getting into the scene, I was doing stand-up a little bit before I found out there was a scene and all that. But once I really got in the scene, one thing I noticed was you would ask somebody like, hey, what other open mics can I go to, or what other shows can I go hang out at or something, and people would just not want to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
They would be like, what did you just say? Like, you know of any open mics going on tomorrow? It's like, what? Who are you?
Who's asking?
Yeah.
What do you need to know for?
Yeah, why do you need to know that? It's like, so I could go there and hang out?
Yeah. So I can get better, I guess. Yeah, so I mean, I started my own open mic back in the day. It was all just creating things I wish existed to kind of get to where I am today. And did you start the Discord?
Yeah.
So you're in that zone as well of like just connecting comics and us trying to all help each other.
Yeah, I totally regret that. Helping anybody, that was a mistake.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
You're already regretting it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I take back everything I just said. You're never mind. You're part of the problem. You created the Discord to cause discord.
I'm definitely part of the problem. I just don't care. That's one of my main issues in life is I just don't give a shit. I try to give a shit, but I can't. And so I started the Discord because you remember the Google Calendar, right? It
Yeah,
would
yeah.
always kind of be a little bit off. Like most of the time,
Yeah.
I felt like one or two shows on there were outdated
Mhm.
or it needed a refresh or something. So I was like, well, because I had tried to reach out to the person who did the calendar before, and they were just like, well, it's COVID, so we're not going to be doing a calendar during COVID or whatever. I was like, okay, that's cool. That makes sense. So I started just gathering up all this information for my own personal, like what mics are still happening, what mics are coming back. And then I'd been in other Discord servers that were kind of like with my friends and stuff, but we figured out that you can create different channels for different topics, and then you can go and you can only look at the ones that are related to the topics that you're interested in, and that keeps from all these different conversations just muddying up with, you know how the Facebook groups were. It's like 20 birthday posts a day, and then you don't see the one about like, hey, there's a new open mic. I remember the Comedy Zone in like Greenville used to post their online sign up like every week, and not a single person in the Facebook group would click on it or sign up for it or whatever. I'd be like the only one, and I'm like, cool, because she would go in there, she would post it, be like, hey, if anybody wants to sign up for the Comedy Zone in Greenville, here's the link, and it would have 0 likes, 0 comments. I'd be like, I guess I'm getting a spot.
Yeah.
And then it'd be
So now everyone's taking your spots because of the
Yeah.
Discord. Is that what it is?
yeah.
Now
Now
people do take your spots.
but now people know exactly what's going on and like how to get on things and how to network with people and stuff. And
What's wrong with that?
I wasn't expecting. Well, everybody was mad at me at first because I created a system of like finding live shows during a pandemic. So so people didn't like that at first. And then some autistic guy in the Discord, very, very, very clearly autistic, said something about like he was gonna shoot up one of the shows or something with a gun. And then I was on tour with Bert Kreischer at the time, working the merch stand. And I was working like 12-hour days. I hadn't even looked at the Discord in like 2-3 days. Now all of a sudden people are calling me, texting me, blowing me up like, dude, you got to do something about the Discord. We called the cops on this guy, and there's a restraining order, and he's banned from here and here, and you need to kick him out and all this. And I was like, I just sent a message like 3 days ago saying like, hey, I'm going to be on tour for the next week. Everybody try to be on your best behavior.
No. Is he still around?
No, he's I think he just got bullied out or whatever. But
He doesn't do shows? Does he do shows?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
He was like a very new open micer, very
He's in jail now.
socially.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
Very, very, not quite the same as everybody else when it comes to understanding social cues and stuff like that. And I talked to him, because I feel like if somebody's threatening violence on you, and then you're, and I think he was making a joke that didn't come across as a joke to most people. And
that is
but-
a joke, I guess.
but if somebody's-
comedy's subjective, I'm gonna kill everyone at this show.
yeah.
LOL. Yeah. Guys, you missed the emoji at the end. That was a winky face.
Yeah,
Okay.
context, man.
Wow.
It's out of context.
Yeah. Freedom of speech. I love like younger comics who don't know how to be funny yet, or like, it's freedom of speech. I got to be edgy because Shane Gillis is edgy, and I can say those things because I've earned that right and earned that trust with an audience and that skill of comedy.
Yeah.
There are levels to knowing how to just make dumb things funny before you just take a big swing at something super edgy, and you'd be like, guys, it's comedy. Stop being so straight edge.
Yeah, I
It's
think
like, it's got to be funny.
freedom of speech is like you shouldn't be arrested and put in jail for something you say, but that doesn't mean that people can't be mad at you.
Yeah, I'm
said
thinking
something.
like
Yeah.
younger comics especially who are trying to be edgy but they don't even know how to be funny yet, and then they get mad that you just don't get it. But it's
Have you ever done McCracken's on a Monday?
back in the Dizzy, I did. I would make the drive out there every now and then. Yeah,
because
not in a while.
You'll see it.
Well, that's I got out of open mics for a lot of. I had forgotten for a little while, and I was like, man, let me get back in there. Let me get back in that grind, and then I go back and you sit in an open mic, and you're like, oh, I don't miss these days.
Yeah,
this
well,
is
I
very
remember.
depressing.
Yeah.
But I did strip clubs and sidewalks and nightclubs and hookah bars, and I did all that, coffee shops in the middle of the afternoon in front of a window with homeless people walking by. Like, I mean, I've done all that for years, so I know what you're talking about.
You're doing less of the open mics now?
Yeah, all like the late night open mics where it's like 25 comics and everyone's just sitting around waiting, and I don't really do as many of those anymore. I've become a little more selective, and when comedy becomes your job, you do become more selective and just picking your battles and balancing home time. And
what would be your
time.
advice for like somebody who's kind of on the cusp of they're not getting booked enough to pay all the bills yet or whatever, but they're kind of tired of doing the open mics and they are getting booked on some of the better shows, but it's kind of like, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks or so.
Is this a hypothetical? Is this you autobiographically asking this question?
Well, I'm relating it to myself. I would say I get booked more than once every 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like I gotta be at
course. Well,
I gotta be out of here at 6 to
I
get to
know
my
you out
show
here.
tonight. You know
I
what
know.
I'm saying? But I'm relating it to myself as in like I kind of am in that position where and you've been doing it longer than me, so there might be somebody else who's kind of in that position, but like I have a wife, I have a baby, I have to balance my time, and I've always kind of struggled with that, balancing the home life and the money with the comedy and the drive and the hustle.
Yeah.
Because like they're really kind of the antithesis of each other. Like when you think about home life with the wife and kids and picket fence and whatever, then your job is just a means to an end, right? You want to go home and you want to spend time with your wife and kids. But when it comes to comedy, the mantra is you got to put everything into comedy in order to be successful. Mm-hmm. And if you were to do that, then the wife and the kids are going to suffer at the same time.
Yeah, and it depends on your definition of success. Everyone has different definitions of success. And also for me, the balance is if I'm gone during the weekends, I'll be home more during the week. If I'm going to be home that weekend, then I may be gone a little bit more during the week. Just depends. But it really is, at the end of the day, I don't encourage any comic to make it their job as quick as possible. I honestly think the longer you can make it a fun hobby, the longer you're going to enjoy it, because when it becomes your job and when it becomes something you feel like you have to do to make ends meet, especially if you have a family and things like that, it takes all the fun out of it. It makes it just stressful, and you starting to approach comedy from a sake of scarcity instead of what you started it for, which is you enjoy doing shows and making people laugh. So with you trying to balance family and making money and getting on stage and all of that, it's, if you want to keep doing comedy and you want to be more efficient with your time when you go out, producing your own show can be a way to make money and still get stage time and still network to then hopefully book other shows. That's a way to do it. Or just figure out more creative ways to make money that aren't comedy. You can have a day job. I do comedy, but then I also do like UGC content where you create content for companies and then they pay you for those videos. I do multiple streams of income to where there isn't too much pressure just on one thing. But you've got to get creative. I can't imagine starting now. We're all still trying to figure it out, but I can't imagine trying to develop as a comedian and then also figure out, okay, I have to be posting all these clips, and then, okay, I have to do crowd work and squeeze in crowd work in this 3-minute set to hopefully go viral, so then people come see me headline when I have 12 minutes of material,
So not comparing yourself to others as
for
well.
sure. Yeah.
Just having fun with it
Yep.
and treating it like a hobby, because I agree. I partially agree, partially disagree, because I think when you treat it like a hobby and you're having fun doing it, you write more probably, and you write better jokes because you're not stressed about, I got to come up with something. I got to, all my old jokes are done and they're not working anymore. I got to come up with something new. But at the same time, like, you see some of these guys that just go full sprint into this thing, and they really do get better quickly and get more opportunities quickly and stuff. So you get that FOMO watching the other guys just like full speed ahead, posting clips every day, even just like shitty clips, and
of course,
but they're still getting like 2,000 likes on them or something. It can be tough just to be like slow and steady.
But it's your definition of what success is.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, then it's within your control to do that. What really shifted my mindset was probably like 8 years in, when I started focusing on what I can control and the opportunities I can create for myself, instead of worrying about what so-and-so is doing or why this club isn't following up or getting back to me when I'm trying to get booked there, and all these different things that were out of my control. As soon as I let go of them and just started creating what I want to happen and what I wish existed, and really focus on what's within my control, then that's when I started to find a lot more, I don't want to say happiness. I feel like that's a bit dramatic, but just a little more
balance.
A little more balance in comedy, because a lot of it can be comparing what's happening to other people, or this person's getting on really fast, or they're on all these shows and they're not even funny type deal. But just focus on what you can control, and that's where you're going to find the balance that you're looking for. So whatever that is to you, I can't really tell you. And from interviewing so many comedians, there hasn't been one silver bullet to how all these comedians have found success. Every single person has found it in a different way, and it started with them defining what that success is. So for you, it's figuring out that and then just kind of going from there.
Yeah. Yeah, you've had some of the best comedians in the world on your show. Who's one of your favorite guests that you had? Like, if somebody said, who's the coolest guest you ever had on Hot Breath?
I think the guest that really opened it up for me was probably Bo Burnham, because his people reached out to me. Yeah. And that was the first time I'd had someone's team reach out and be like, hey, we want this person on your show to help promote this movie they're coming out with. So that really...
And when was that?
This was when he released 8th Grade. So whatever year ago that was, it was a few years ago. But
Did you have any idea that guy was going to... Did you watch the Inside comedy special he did?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was wild.
Because that's one of the things I love about podcasting, is sometimes you have these moments that you don't know are going to be as special as they really are. Like, you couldn't have known that this kid making silly songs and stuff was then a few years later going to release like one of the most important comedy specials.
Yeah,
in the
several.
past.
Yeah,
like,
he's always done his own thing.
In
Talk
history,
about,
maybe.
Yeah. Talk about defining your own success. That is a guy who has done everything his way the entire way. So,
because that special, I think, like, yeah, it's a different kind of thing. It's not a stand-up special by any means, but I think that was one of the biggest specials probably of the last 10 years.
It was wild.
Like, everybody, but he's a household name because of that special.
Well, he had many specials before that, too.
He was big before, definitely.
Yeah.
But, like, my mom knows who he is now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like, my wife's mom knows who he is now. Like, he just ascended with that special.
Yeah.
And it was like, you could have never known that back in the day.
It's true. And you never know. It's a funny one is like Mark Normand, who I've had on 3 times, and I had him on the first time. He was doing the skull, not selling out.
Yeah.
And then
and he's just a
been
comedy
further.
nerd, so perfect for your show. Yeah.
For sure. So he's one though that a guy he was opening up for Amy Schumer at the time as well. So he's a guy who I interviewed who's just on the way up. He had done Conan and things, but you don't expect. You know, he was just here and did Atlanta Symphony Hall. Yeah. You know, so he's a long way away from the skull now. But to see him in that
75 seats at the skull, you can't sell it out.
Yeah.
Now you're selling 7,500.
Yeah, it's incredible. So it's just the people that stick with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
That's what Tito from Microwave told me on the podcast was I asked him what's the secret to getting he's in a band, and so I said, what's the secret to being signed by a big record label and going on tour around the world, Europe and Asia and all that? And he said, just don't break up. Don't quit.
Yeah. Yeah. You hear that a lot.
Going.
Just keep going. Yeah.
So I guess, no matter what pace you're going at, as long as you're going, you get there eventually, maybe. Or, or you just, I know some people who've been doing it a really long time.
Yeah.
And they're about the same level I'm at. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think to myself, if I stayed at this level for the rest of my life, would I be happy? I wouldn't be financially happy, but it's not the worst thing in the world to not have enough money all the time.
And you can figure out ways to make money beyond comedy.
Yeah.
So you don't have to put all the pressure on comedy to be the thing that feeds all your financial needs.
Yeah, I just quit my job, so.
How long ago?
I have no money at all. Like 2 weeks ago.
What were you doing?
Like IT, computer repair.
Wow.
Yeah, it was lame.
And you have a kid?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, my wife has a decent job, and our parents help us out with the baby and stuff. So we got a little support system, but yeah, it's a struggle. It was always a struggle for me to balance the performing and the money and the life. Like, I started a band directly out of high school. I started my first band when I was still in high school, and then after I graduated high school, we kind of merged 2 bands together from my high school into one, like, super band. And then we just started touring right away. We bought a van, and we started setting up tours, meeting people. We got, like, a house as, like, roommates, like the frat house, and we would let bands sleep on our couches, and we got a bunch of pull-out couches from the thrift store and stuff, and so there would be like 12, 15 guys all sleeping on my floor at the same time. I was partying all the time. I became an alcoholic and a drug addict. Bad. I'm 6 years sober now.
Oh, congratulations.
But I always struggled with it. Like, I never learned how to be an adult. I never cared. I thought I was going to be dead long before 30 years old.
How old are you now?
31, yeah.
Nice.
I thought I was just gonna burn out, and not to bring the mood down, but
no, it's real though.
So I've never been good at, like, oh, this is how you have a family. This is how you have loved ones. This is how you pay your taxes. I was like, you want me to show you how to get drunk for $4 and find an 8-ball of Coke on the street? I can do that.
Well, you figured that out, so you can figure out how to be an adult now.
I guess so. I could sell drugs. That's an option.
It's true. You could just become the plug.
Yeah.
That goes hand in hand with comedy, so you could really...
It depends on what kind of drugs, like if you got good cocaine and there's no fentanyl in there and you're positive,
that's a big
of that,
if nowadays.
You're going to make a lot of money.
It's
You
a
can
big
make a
if.
lot of fucking money. I go to Star Bar on Monday and sell out my whole inventory.
Yeah. Sounds like you're already doing it. It sounds
No,
like this is
I would
a
never. No,
commercial
no,
for
no,
your
no.
new enterprise.
I don't support. I don't think anybody should do drugs or drink alcohol. That personally, I think it's bad for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's all poison.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope in comedy, too. People will start having one beer at every show, and that can quickly grow into 2 or 3,
Yeah.
and it gets expensive, too.
I think, it does get expensive. As long as it's not a problem, as long as it's not interfering with your life, then sure, there's plenty of people out there who can enjoy a beer in moderation, but I think there's also a lot of people out there who can't. And the way our society has been set up for a long time, it's like it glorifies drinking and sex and partying on like a daily basis. Every TV show is about drinking or sex or partying. Euphoria was popular with even amongst like high school kids. And I get that some of that is realistic and some of that does happen in high school, but you could at least just say those kids are in college or something. Would it have changed Euphoria at all to just be like, these are college kids?
I never watched it. I don't know.
It was just about a bunch of kids doing drugs and having sex and being depressed and shit, I guess. Very weird. Like Degrassi. Remember Degrassi?
Degrassi.
It was
never really watched
more
it, yeah.
adult than Degrassi, but similar in just
Gotcha.
like drama, teen drama.
Yeah, but there's even, in comedy, it can be glorified partying and all that as well. A lot of famous comics are known for drinking a lot and things like that.
So many times just, lots of famous comics or even just somebody, if you're opening for somebody or something, they'll walk in and be like, oh, here you go, man. Throw you a nicotine pouch or a beer or, whatever, a joint or something like that. It's like, if you're struggling with something, you might be not in the best place right there.
Yeah, and I don't care there's people who say it makes them funnier, makes them better, or whatever, but I've never, I think going on stage sober I think it's the best way to learn comedy. I think people do it and makes them feel looser and they feel like they're more themselves, but doing it sober is the way to
I
go.
feel like you can really tell when somebody was nervous about doing their set, so they drank a little too much.
Oh, of course. You ever got too high, and then there's like, what was I talking about? Or, yeah.
I'm going full Zen monk wizard mode.
Oh, yeah?
Because I used to smoke weed. Because I never had a problem with weed. I could smoke it or not. I could take it or leave it, but usually I would take it. And because it doesn't get me all messed up. It doesn't make me do things I wouldn't normally do, besides maybe eat too much.
Makes you lazier,
candy or something, yeah.
I don't know.
But I think, I really don't think it made me less productive either. Like lazy maybe in the sense that I'll let some things go. Like if the dishes need to be done, I'll be like, screw it. I'll do them tomorrow. But if I had to go to work or something and I was like super stoned, I could still do my job and, talk to people and have a conversation and all that. But I just want to get to a point where like I can't blame anything on external factors. So like nicotine, THC, maybe even caffeine. Just like I want to just be present in every moment.
It's a practice.
Yeah, and it's been tough. I just been, trying to fill my time with productive things, and I don't know.
What are you doing to be more mindful?
Just like chewing gum, and chewing gum just to get like the the fidgeting.
I was waiting for you to be like, I've started meditating, or I started listening to like the Calm app, or listening to podcasts about mindfulness, and it was literally Trident.
I should do that.
I started Trident.
I should do those things.
Good.
Yeah, I usually tend to just dwell on it and then focus that energy into other impulse control habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But gum,
Yeah.
cool. It's, I
Just
mean, you're
regular old gum.
you focus on one thing. You're just doing it repetitively, so it can be sort of a mantra.
Yeah, I have
You
like
chewing.
impulse control issues. That's what I'm realizing is my problem. So when I want to smoke a joint or pop in a nicotine pouch or something, I can't stop myself from doing it
Mm-hmm.
because eventually just the pressure I put on myself just builds up too much, and I just am like, screw it, I'll just do it this one time and then I'll stop after that, and it never works.
It always ends just in a dead end.
Yeah, you always just take it too far,
Yeah.
and then you get all messed up again. Or, if it's weed, then if I'm like, yeah, I need to quit smoking weed, then I'll go for like a whole day, and then the next day will come around and I'll be like, well, I did good yesterday, so I'll just do a little bit today, and then I'll get back on it. But then you're just like way too stoned, and
Yeah.
you're like,
A few minutes ago, you said you didn't have a problem with weed, and now you're saying,
I mean, it doesn't affect my life in a negative way.
yeah,
I have a problem with weed in that I need to be able to not do it for like. Well, most recently.
I'm not laughing at you. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
Weed is one of those drugs where people are like, weed's totally fine. I was like, it's still a drug.
It's still a drug.
It's
still
still
a drug.
Like,
yeah.
it's not as just
But
innocent
I also
as people
think nicotine is a drug, caffeine
course,
is
of
a drug.
course.
Obviously, alcohol is a
For
drug.
sure.
I
Well,
think
how did you get off
alcohol-
those? So, like, you can use what you learned from the drugs,
yeah,
other drugs and alcohol to this.
mostly just like focusing that into, and also alcohol is one of those drugs where the second you take the second one, all your impulse control is out the window. So,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, if I don't really think I'm a super bad like drug addict. I'm a very bad alcoholic. I can't touch alcohol at all. I can't look at it. I can't but I just have to abstain completely. But like drugs, like, I'm not going to do cocaine or heroin or meth or something like that because I just have no interest in it.
I was just trying to think of you trying to be more mindful and not do as much nicotine or weed, how you could learn from how you got off the other substances. and applied to
Abstinence,
this.
cold turkey abstinence is the only method that
Mhm.
works for me, I think. So,
Just white knuckle it
yeah.
and just find other interests.
I think you just
Other
gotta,
hobbies?
focus your time on something that takes your mind away from it. Whereas I think like when it comes to weed, if I sit down and start playing a video game, then
Mhm.
that's really gonna trigger my cravings. Because video games and weed are like peanut butter
and jelly,
you know,
dude,
and
for
like-
sure. It's like fentanyl and cocaine. It just goes so well together. Yeah, it's finding another habit or another hobby to keep you occupied and interested. I think gardening has really helped me. I'm not telling you to garden, but just finding another
Yeah,
habitual habit you can
yeah.
get lost in.
I did start a little bit. I grew a tomato plant
Yeah.
last year, and I grew a
weed plant?
a basil. Yeah,
That'd be funny. He's like, I
Dude.
started growing basil, coca leaves.
it's not a bad idea because the main issue with weed was buying it. Costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Costs like $200 an ounce. Ounce will last you. If you smoke weed every day, an ounce will last you about a month and a half. That's $200 a month. That's like it's like 2 internet bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my internet's like $60, so
That's a lot of therapy too. Are you in
3
therapy?
internet bills.
Therapy helps.
Yeah, I am.
There you go. That's a good-
Yeah, it's also like $200 a month.
Well, you saying $200 a month made me think, investing that money somewhere else, and something instead of something that takes away, something that gives, and therapy is definitely something that helps.
Yeah, I did use individual counseling to get over the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and then I said I would quit smoking weed, but I'll go like a month or two without smoking weed, and then I'll be like, I did good. I went a whole
Yep.
month or whatever. I can
Mhm.
hit this, and then as soon as I hit it again, I'm just right back in
Oh, yeah.
the swing of things, like I never left.
Yeah, and
So-
it always ends the same way.
I think my goal is gonna be just like quit the weed until stand up and podcasting or whatever, comedy or whatever I'm doing that where I'm happy and content is paying all my bills and there's nothing to worry about. I got a nice little nest egg for the baby and stuff.
Yeah, you have a higher purpose now too. If you have a child,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So I just gotta clean it up a little for sure. I don't even know how we got here.
as if you're in therapy now, it feels like you're in
yeah.
therapy.
Have you ever had any issues with like substances or?
Oh, I mean, I relate to you for sure. I mean, anything I do 100%. So even first 10 years of comedy, I'm gone every night. I'm out till 1 a.m. and then I would be up at 7 for my day job, or I would drive 12 hours for $50. And I threw myself all the way into comedy. Same thing with drinking or smoking. I don't do either anymore because it's that saying, I think, in the program that it's like one is too many, 100's not enough. It's
Yeah.
like as soon as you have one, then you just want all of it. And
Yeah.
then even if that day I just had one drink, I'm thinking about it all week. And I was like, oh, maybe it's like noon, and I was like, hey, maybe I just get a little drink. What's the harm gonna be type deal. I never got a DUI or I never like got arrested or I never had to go to rehab, but I had to definitely with drinking and smoking weed. I never really smoked cigarettes.
I would love to go to rehab, one of those nice like
like the rich ones. Yeah. But you
But
go to AA.
I feel like that. Yeah, AA is fine, but I just want one of those rich like I guess like those meditation retreat kind of ones.
And they do ayahuasca.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
the-
just- yeah. They just do another drug to recover
Different
from their
drugs.
drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would love to do. One of those just like peaceful, relaxing rehabs, just to get all this shit out of my.
Yeah,
Like-
and it takes that moment of, okay, this taking more than it's giving? And am I chasing something when I was younger, who I was when I was younger? Because I used to love to drink and party and all that, but it's not even a part of my identity anymore. And I'm not going to lie and say I don't never drink or I don't never smoke. I mean, I was in Sonoma for a gig, which is like wine country. I was there with my wife, so we drank while we were there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I will some, but it's definitely not part of my weekly, even monthly routine. It's very far and few between it, and it has to have a significance behind it now. Like, we are in wine country, so we are drinking wine. It has to be an occasion or a moment that I will actually want to remember.
I think that's the only thing that I miss about it is like, yeah, if I go to the winery or something, I can't try their product, or if the show's at a brewery or something,
Of course.
I can't try their beer and let them know if it's good or bad.
But
or
then
whatever.
you're
But
like,
then,
you've
yeah.
had beer.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, I know what it is. I know what I am with beer, and it's better if I don't. It's like,
Of course.
no,
Yeah.
my behavior will be so much worse than however good your beer tastes. So
It's good you
just
know
don't
that,
give
though.
it to me.
Because it's
Yeah.
easy to rationalize that, oh, this time will be different or whatever. I can be that way with sugar, too.
When
Sugar's
I say
another drug.
I am a monster, I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds.
What was your rock bottom?
Many times. I ruined my friend's wedding one time. Many times.
Many times you ruined a wedding?
Many times I went lower than what I thought rock bottom was.
What happened at the wedding?
Let's see. I got really drunk. I blacked out. Last thing I remember was screaming that song by Stitches out the window of the car. And then once we got to the wedding, I was already blacked out.
Got to the wedding. I thought this was at the wedding. This was on
No,
the
I was fucked up before I even got
Pre-game
to
the
the
wedding.
wedding. Yeah.
Oh.
And then it was on an island. What's that? St. Pete or St. Simon or
St.
something?
Simon's
Something like
Island.
that.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
small island.
Mhm.
And I was just like getting loud and rowdy and throwing things and just totally blacked out. It turns out I wasn't the only person that ruined that wedding though. So it was.
That's a good
and
rationalization.
then,
Yeah.
let's
You know,
see.
it turns out I was just partying. I
I
was
was
just being a
I
part.
was
It was a
smashing
vibe in
things.
there.
I can't remember what I got angry about, but I will always get angry once I've drank enough.
Oh, you
And
just
so
get
yeah, I was
mad.
smashing light bulbs and
At the wedding?
yeah,
On like the dance floor?
yeah. I was
Oh.
yelling at the band. I was like talking shit to the band or something. But that one of my funniest things that I'll do when I'm drunk is I'll still like be pretty respectful because I remember I would like talk a bunch of shit to the band and then I would like throw some money in the tip.
Of course. Yeah. That's the idea of respect. I broke light bulbs. I threw their cake through a window. But, I left a little money on the dresser.
You know,
left a
I
little.
throw that brick in your face. Now what you gonna
Wow.
do with it? There was another time where I got my band in trouble because we just pulled up to this show. It was in like Massachusetts, like middle Massachusetts, and they were like, "We're gonna go to Taco Bell," and it was like one of the last days of tour. I had $4, and then I figured, well, I could go to Taco Bell and I could eat today for $4, or I could go to the gas station and I could get blackout drunk today for $4. So I chose to get blackout drunk off of the that night it was the Schlitz High Gravity.
I thought you were going to say 211s.
They're basically 211s.
Yeah.
The black can 211s.
Mm-hmm. Ugh.
At my peak, I was like 170 pounds, pretty skinny. If I drink 2 of the Black Steel Reserve 211s, then I'll black out, guaranteed. And then violence will ensue. But yeah, so that time
I still want to do that as a challenge
then-
on my podcast.
We call it like Edward 40 hands. We're doing Edward 40 hands.
Because I bet I won't
Well,
black out. I
yeah.
bet I'll go to an open
Okay.
mic and have a normal night.
my buddy Heaney says he can drink the black 211s and not black out. It's so
It depends on how fast
I
you
believe
drink
him.
them.
Yeah. Because I'll
Hangover
I'll
from
pound him
those
down.
Are hideous, dude.
Oh, dude.
Ugh.
I never stooped that low, so I
bad.
don't know what I'm getting into.
It feels
It's
like
bad.
another lifetime ago for me because when
a
I
different
think about
person.
doing that now, it just
Yeah.
makes me sick to my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that night I said something on stage that the promoter didn't like, and I kept turning my amp up to the maximum volume, which on my amp is like that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I said Massachusetts is gay and it sucks. And they didn't like that I said gay on stage. So my band got in trouble and they were mad at me for that. And I remember waking up the next day after that show and we were at my friend's apartment in Boston. Like we drove all the way, like probably 2 hours from the show to go to his house in Boston. And I wake up in Boston. I'm like, did we play a show last night? And they were like, yeah. I was like, and I played the bass? And they were like, yeah. And I was like,
Gosh.
was it any good? They're like, no.
No, actually, we're quitting the band. Yeah. Actually, we.
So yeah, they told me that I did all this pretty much. And then after we finished playing, I think I was so drunk that I just walked. Like I played the whole set, not very good, but I made it through the whole set. And then I just walked over and I fell asleep under our merch table, just like,
Bro.
yeah.
I mean, it's not as bad as
That's
the
all,
wedding.
that's
but-
only one, and that's one that I'm most comfortable sharing with you. So there's several others that I'm too embarrassed to share with the
Uh-huh.
public that are much worse than that. So
like
that,
getting arrested or.
oh yeah. Getting arrested is not too embarrassing for me. It's just when I would cross the line of what is appropriate and acceptable, like almost every time I would do that. And my friends thought it was funny, and that was a big part of the problem. Was
Mhm.
that we'd wake up the next day and they'd all have a story about you're not gonna believe
Billy.
what Billy did last
Like, you should be a comedian, dude.
night. Yeah.
You were hilarious blackout. And now you're not drinking, a comedian. Just quit your job. Like, what now?
It was always funny until it wasn't. You
Of
know?
course.
And
Mhm.
and my goal was always to be funny, but then I would either, sometimes you start bombing, even in the normal real world, and when you're blackout drunk, that is a harder pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah. The next day.
Because you're trying to be funny, and then you notice you're annoying people as a drunk person, right?
Mhm.
And then you start doubling down because you're drunk, and then you're just annoying them more. And then you say, well, if you don't think I'm funny, then fuck you, you piece of shit.
There was a comedian back in the day. His name was Bo Micadelic. Do you
I remember Bo Micadelic.
I don't know if he still does comedy, but he would say if jokes, he would go up there. He had a Black and Mild in his hand, and he was like this bigger dude. And if a joke didn't work, he'd be like, F you guys. Funny to me.
Yeah.
That's what he would say. Every time a joke didn't work, he would say that to the crowd every time.
I think Micadelic was on the first time I ever did the big room at the Strand for Nickelback Rick's
Oh, yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't seen him in forever.
And that
Bo.
show was
Yeah.
great. Yeah. But it was that big theater, and then it would be like half full, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
even if you're doing well, you're not really killing because there's not enough people there.
Yeah, you got to bring it. Those shows, you kind of gotta bring them to you.
Yeah.
Because if you sit back and wait on them, there's a chasm between you and the audience. So you got to really figure out ways to connect instantly.
Yeah, I just recently went to Ron White at the Fox just because
Wow.
because he was playing the Fox. My dad loves the Fox, so it was like, let's go, and he also bought my ticket. So
Of course. Yeah.
and then Jim Brewer at the center stage.
we were there.
It was two venues where I was like, okay, this is different than what I'm doing right now, which is
Mhm.
bars and breweries and wineries and open mics. It's like Jim Brewer especially, I was like, I don't think I even could do what this guy's doing because he's running all over the stage.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He's using the whole stage. He's doing the sound effects.
Mhm.
He's like banging the mic, it's so animated, doing all the act outs.
Incredible. I've seen him twice. It's
The
just-
voices and
yeah.
stuff. It's like, that's where I really felt like, okay, even if I had this big theater stage, I wouldn't even be utilizing it like he's utilizing it.
Yeah, but then
you know?
Ron White probably just stood there, right?
Yeah, and then he just
So-
stood in one place the whole time. And so,
Killed, I'm sure.
yeah, so I guess, like, I don't know. Because I would say, like, what Jim Brewer's doing, I think, not that it takes more, but it's just a bigger, it's more campy, right? It's more theatrical.
Yeah, he's an
And,
actor, too.
Yeah.
Ron White is a comedian.
Yeah.
He's done comedy for decades and decades.
He's
so it's-
already well known. And
It's a
well
different
respected.
skill. But Jim
Yeah.
killed, so everyone has their own different style. And like you say, the shows you're talking about, you're comparing it to the Fox and you're saying, well, I'm doing a brewery or these bars. That's where you learn
Yeah.
how to create a relationship with an audience. That's how you learn who you are on stage. That's how you find your voice, is doing a lot of those shows.
And then when you finally get to the Fox, you're ready.
For
'Cause
sure.
you're like, I've done McCracken's 1,000 times. I can handle this.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, man, thanks so much for coming through. I know. Let's see, you got your Clean Comedy Festival coming up. Anything
April
else
3rd.
that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, the Clean Comedy Festival on April 3rd at Mad Life Stages in Woodstock. Georgia. I also do a clean comedy workshop for comics that want to learn how to basically make their dirty comedy clean so they can start booking the clean work. Because I met a comic in Austin who told me he turned down a $500 gig because he didn't do 10 minutes clean. And I was like, that should never happen to a comedian. A comedian should at least be able to know how to do a clean set when that opportunity comes.
Yeah.
And, of course, the podcast, Hot Breath Podcast, over 400 interviews with comedians all around the world. So that's on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
Joel Byars, everybody. Thank you, man. Peace, y'all.